Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to Solutions. So this is the sister channel to Aquarius Rising Africa, and I am so delighted, Catherine, that you are our very, very, very first guest. It is amazing to have you on our channel. I couldn't have wished for someone better, honestly, because I think like Mona and myself, you've got such a heart for the animals. And just to tell our viewers, for those of you guys who are not really sure yet, we've started Solutions channel because with Aquarius Rising Africa, we really expose so much ugliness, which is so necessary. The child transportation, which we'll use now, all sorts of dodgy things going on in the world, really, really heartbreaking stuff that we deal with. So all of that is coming up, and rather than deal with sensationalism, which I think the world is very much involved in right now, is who's doing what and da. So not there. But what we're doing is we're trying to find ways to move forward. So once people have come up, when people start speaking up and speaking out, then this is the bridge we're creating to find solutions in ways to move forward in 5D consciousness. So that will be the main aim of this channel. And of course, as we all know, animals are just so important. It's not just our dogs and our cats and our beautiful domestic pets, but every animal, those that are slaughtered on a daily basis, hunted, traumatized, whatever, that most humans who are doing that have no idea how important that is. Most humans don't have an idea at this point, from my understanding and what I'm seeing, this is not a judgment, that a cow or a pig or a goat or a sheep has the same fears and feelings as your dog and your cat and your rabbit and whatever it is that is taking home or living with you and what have you. So I'd love us to get to a place in my lifetime still where we get to understand that. So Catherine, I am so delighted to have you because I would just like to find out from you, before we go into the animals section with you, who are you? Where do you come from? What is your background? What made you this amazing, awesome being that you are today? And then obviously your heart for the animals, which for me is just such a beautiful thing. So over to you, beautiful lady.
Well, first, thank you both so much. For one, I was so happy when you told me you were setting up this channel, because I think it's so important to have the other half to, you've got the exposure and then what are we going to do about it? So I am so happy to be your first guest and to be talking about this sort of stuff with both of you. So thank you. Yeah, so my name's Catherine Edwards. I'm from the UK. I'm a massive animal lover. I've got two of my dogs here with me, happily asleep behind. And I was very lucky. I grew up with a lot of animals. So both my parents were really into animals. So from a very early age, animals have been a big part of my life. In fact, it's a standing joke when we were children. If you couldn't find my mum, she'd be in the shed with the guinea pigs. And she far preferred spending time with the animals than with her two-legged children. And I'm quite fine with that. So come from a family of real animal lovers. And as I went through sort of school, I've always been so connected with animals. I mean, quite honestly, I've always found animals often a lot easier to get on with than humans because, well, come on to that, but for so many reasons, but they're pure intent. And I went on to study biology. I loved biology. My friend and I used to let any lab animals loose and we always got caught for it, but we didn't care. But I loved studying. So throughout this, people talk about things.
I love it. So, that's so cool.
We let them all loose and then we got really lectured about they might not survive in the wild. I said, well, I think they're happy to take that chance, quite frankly.
Exactly.
But I did the thing. I studied a lot of animal behavior. I kept away from the ones, obviously, when there's animal experiments. But I love studying, and I'm probably a bit different to a lot of people I've heard talk about, because a lot of people have got a lot of very negative connotations about the education system. And yes, there are, But personally, I can say I managed to take a lot of good from it. Not saying there isn't indoctrination and not saying there isn't that, but I love eternally learning, and there's never been a year in my life where I haven't been continuing with my self-study. And then I went on, when I left university, I went traveling around the world, which was amazing, mainly to see a lot of different animals. And then I went into sort of proper jobs, and I've had jobs in environmental management, I've had jobs in telecoms, I've had jobs in, I then had my own project management consultancy in the National Health Service. But my passion was always animals. But I'm so old, when I left university as a biologist, you either went into the pharmaceutical industry, you went to study animals in the wild, which is what I really wanted to do, but I had my own horse at the time and I couldn't leave her. So and also I didn't like the way a lot of the experiments were being carried out. And so I had a lot of different careers. And then when I had my children, I thought, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to get back to working with animals, but I wanted to do something that was very much getting to the root cause of issues, because I've been lucky enough to have horses since my teenage years. Well, a horse that I had for 30 years, my first horse. And I'd gone through a stage of looking at how in the UK we kept our horses as children, which was very, very natural. We allowed them to be horses. We didn't interfere too much, to progressing up and seeing how veterinary medicine, how the foods, how the care had changed, not just for horses, but for any animal under human care, beyond all recognition. And I didn't like what I was seeing, because I could see that most of the problems that our animals under our care were experiencing were human made, and the humans thought they were doing the wrong things, but were making decisions that were very detrimental to their animals. So to cut a long story short, I ended up training as an equine iridologist, which is looking into the eyes, the iris of the eyes for horses, to look at the root cause of the physical, emotional and spiritual side of things. And I got so much ridicule from my scientific friends, you know, how can you give up your career? How can you give up this? But I've never looked back. And when they say the eyes are the window to the soul, they really are. So I then went through a journey of studying lots of different holistic therapies for humans and animals. And I'm still on that journey, because I don't believe there's any one solution to anything. So I've now managed to surround myself with a lot of gorgeous animals that we share our life with, which is fantastic. And I work with animals and they're humans. And the reason I say I work with animals and they're humans is most animals, domestic animals, whether they're horses, whether they're farm animals, whether they're dogs, cats, guinea pigs, goldfish, the humans in their life make most of the decisions for them. So it's actually normally the humans you've got to work with. The animals, when we leave them to their own devices, oh, here comes Coco, she always joins.
I was going to say,
the animals left onto their own devices know how to make sensible decisions. Now, they will sometimes get it wrong. And of course, nature can be a cruel place. So I'm not sort of, over fantasizing that nature's perfect and they all live like Snow White and nothing ever eats each other. But actually, my main purpose now, where I'm at now, is really helping people see the world through the animal's eyes. Absolutely. So that they can make decisions from the animal's well-being, really from a heart-based place. And I started off a YouTube channel a couple of years ago, never on my horizon to do that at all, but with everything that was going on, Chantelle and Mornay, when this all hit the fan, so to speak, a couple of years ago, for me, when everything started coming out about the little people and everything, which is absolutely terrible, but there was a bit of me that thought, thank God, because we've been doing that to animals and counting it as acceptable forever. So I've been having the conversation with people that, there is no such thing as a humane slaughterhouse.
Never.
You've got the adrenal hormone running through their veins. They know when they're lined up exactly what's going to happen to them. I mean, all three of us have developed our skills that everyone has of communicating with animals, and we know what they're feeling. We know the emotions they're feeling. They know what's coming, and absolutely. People can dismiss it because it's another species, and they've been taught through society that that's acceptable. Now, don't get me wrong, I haven't got a problem with someone that needs food to survive, who's a very good no fear hunter, going out and killing something and using every bit of it for their animals' needs. I'm not against that. I think at the moment in the world that we live in, that is the way of nature. You know, animals eat other animals, whether it's going to continue.
It's like the way that the Bushmen or the Khoisan people here in Africa hunted all this time, you know, and I think I might have mentioned it before, but it's really just, it's how they do it is the day or the night or whatever before, let's say the dad takes his son out on his first hunt. And also, let's never forget, these people are so connected to the earth and to nature. They have the utmost respect for the other species. And they would then do this amazing connecting dance ceremony where they're dancing and around the fire and what have you. And then the spirit of the animal comes in. And the minute the spirit of the animal has come in, to give them permission, they say, okay, I'm giving you permission to eat my body.
Yeah.
They would then know which animal that is, and then that's with the intention they go hunting.
Exactly.
And let's never forget, they make their own bows and arrows. They're not on the back of big trucks with high-powered vehicles and binocs and blinding lights and nonsense like that. They're using poisons from the roots of the various plants and stuff. So they do it with intention and they do it with integrity. And when they will, let's say, shoot the animal with the arrow, they've got about 2 hours to get to that animal before the poison wears off, the paralysis, because the animal is then paralyzed, the poison wears off. And these guys are masterful trackers.
Yeah.
And then they would then obviously kill the animal in a very respectful way, I can say that. And it's amazing because then it's like the bush telegraph, we call it here.
Yeah.
Within a couple of hours or a day or so, the next minute, the whole tribe of little bushmen are there. And they are, because they definitely connect via ESP and stuff like that. And they would then, they dance, they appreciate. I look at this and I mean, it's like the happiest Gemsbok that is ever happier than anything to die and to be their food, the way that they are celebrating and honoring this animal. That, in my opinion, is the way that it needs to be done. Not, I mean, when you're looking at, for example, hunters in Africa, do you know that some of these creeps will wait at water holes for the animals to come and drink, and that's when they take them out? They will go on these trucks with high seats and high-powered vehicles and these blinding lights and just shoot and traumatize. Although I've got to say there are some very honorable ones as well. They'll go into, let's say, the herd of kudu or whatever with a bow and arrow, and he will then target the one and he will get it the first shot. It falls down. It does not disturb the rest of the herd, and it is done in that way. I have to say that for me is a way that I think it can be done. Namibia, a few years ago, there was culling going on because of the droughts. I mean, in helicopter, they herd this game into the one corner of the veld, we call it, and they just mow them down. It is done disgustingly. And that is just wildlife. I mean, we're not even talking slaughterhouses. I think we've spoken about slaughterhouses. But that sort of thing for me is just beyond unacceptable. It is beyond unacceptable. So we definitely...
Part of the Great Awakening for this is, for me, I think it's brilliant because we talk about it's for everything on the planet, not just the humans, and you can't separate the two. So if you're prepared to treat animals like that and turn a blind eye, in my opinion, don't start moaning when it then comes to humans being used in that way of whatever age, because
it's a mirror universe, right?
It's a mirror universe. And yes, I mean, you know, I didn't realize until I was nearly an adult about the dairy industry. I didn't realize. I thought, oh, well, that's fine because they're not eating meat. I mean, now I look back and I just think, what was I thinking? But so it's not about blaming people. It's like when you know better, you do better. And part of what we've all been trying to do over the last few years is, yes, raise this stuff to the surface, because once you see it, you can make better choices. And that's what we're looking for, is always learning, educating. How can we do it better? How can we go back more naturally? And I just am a strong proponent for, you know, how a person treats their animals is going to be a reflection of how they treat other humans. And you might like to distinguish it and justify that it's different, but in my world, it isn't different at all. So for me, a lot of the stuff that's coming out, yes, it's going to be amazing for the children and sorry, little people. I'm just going to move Coco because otherwise she's going to pull my internet connection out. Aren't you gorgeous? She keeps coming up here. It's really funny, but then
Coco, show us your face, beautiful.
She is so gorgeous. Look.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's so beautiful. But you know, so I think I looked at it from a slightly different sort of way and thought, hallelujah, because when I've been speaking to all my health nut friends who say, well, it's fine so long as it's grass-fed organic, and I'm saying, fine, give me your children have had a good organic life. Give me their whole class, actually. I'm going to load them up into the lorry. They're going to know where they're going. Then I'm going to line them up outside and take them to the slaughterhouse and slaughter them. I'm like, you're just being stupid now. And I'm like, no, I'm not, actually. For me, there is no difference.
To me, that's even more of a betrayal. That animal was enjoying its life. If I was a factory farmed animal, a pig in a little crate, this with 30 little piglets suckling off me, I'd be happier to go to the slaughterhouse than a grass-fed animal. It's not for the animal's good, it's for your good. It's for our own needs that we are doing. And I'm going to say narcissistic needs that we are doing that. But as you say, it's not about judging people. It's about creating awareness, because when we know better, we do better. And that's what it's about. I think we can also say, as animal communicators, I'll tell you, when I work with cats, for example, and I've worked with a lot of cats in my life, mainly cats, small ones, big ones, etc. They will know every litter. Oh my goodness, look at you, Coco. Yes. And now you want to tell me that is not intelligent. Look at those eyes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. They will know every litter of kittens they've had. Yeah. The amount of litters. Let's say they've had 6 litters of kittens in their lives. They will know how many kittens they've had, and they'll want to know where those kittens are. Yeah. So when we think that they don't know, we can just take their kittens and give them away, or throw them in bags on the side of the road, or whatever the case might be. It is just so disconnected. Yeah. So we need to reconnect to the truth and the knowledge that we are all sentient beings. Just because that animal does not be able to speak and write the ABCs the way that we do, that they do not have consciousness. I'm very interested to know about the iridology, the horse iridology that you're doing, because when we understand human iridology as well, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers will know, that's obviously, as you say, the study of the eye and looking in there, and through seeing different things, etc., you can see what's going on in the body, etc., etc. I would love to know your experience on animal iridology. What have you seen? What have you encountered? Because that's very interesting. I love that.
Just absolutely fantastic. I mean, the thing is, you can tell so much from iridology. Sorry, Coco, you'll have to go there because otherwise you'll pull my internet and we'll all crash. So the thing is, when you're looking iridology, I'll give a very brief overview, but it shows inherited issues, it shows past issues, current issues, and very importantly, issues that are developing, imbalances in the body. So everything is about an imbalance in the body. Is there inflammation? Is there suppression? And so it can show every single organ of the body, right down to every single vertebrae, a lot of inherited characteristics in terms of personalities. And but also when you're looking into the eyes, and I would encourage anyone listening, after you've watched this, go and pick someone, a human, start with a human first, and look into each other's eyes and tell me how that makes you feel in your heart. So when an animal gives you permission to look into their eyes, they know that they are literally giving up all their deepest secrets. So at that level, it's the most amazing connection. And what it really enables me to do is, because so often modern diagnostics, they're just dealing with the symptom, not the root cause. And so it can tell you everything. I mean, I've literally seen, you know, sort of fractures that have been completely undiagnosed by CT scans and MRI scans. But the main thing that comes up consistently, which is pretty horrific really, is just how out of balance the microbiome in the digestive system is in virtually every animal you look at. And we know from sort of what we all know now that your microbiome, your digestive system, not only does it affect your emotional health, your physical health in every possible way, and your immune health. And you can see how much most animals, not all, obviously whales, elephants, etc., a lot of animals have a shorter lifespan than humans. We can come on to that because we've taken that down drastically, actually. You know, the lifespan of a typical domestic dog now is half what it was 100 years ago because of the decisions we humans are making for them. But the iridology is so amazing because it enables you to pinpoint where you need to start to have the most effects. And most animal parents, if they can start to see real results, then they've got the confidence to keep going with it. And that's really, really important because the horse can't go and buy its own food. So, you know, a lot of horses now are fed genetically modified soya. Well, that's just terrible for them, and they've got no choice. A lot of them, a typical horse should be eating up to 70 species a day, and they're lucky if they get a little square field. They need company, they need social interaction. So the iridology for me is the starting point that starts to pull everything else together and can really see where the animal's priorities are. Because for a carer, an animal parent, to keep going, to make the changes in that animal's life, they need to start seeing results most of the time. So that really helps you to pinpoint that. But I don't think so many people realize how much trust that animal has to give you to give over that information. And I'm very lucky. I do work with some really open-minded vets who are just blown away by what you can tell by looking into an animal's eyes of any species for 10 minutes can tell them more than what they can do with any of their modern veterinary diagnostics.
I think that is absolutely incredible. And what a wonderful tool, what a wonderful gift to give to the animals, and secondly to yourself, because not only is it respecting the animal enough to know, you know, that I care for you enough to want to know more about you, but you are giving yourself the gift as well of opening up your mind and your consciousness to something much greater than what you ever dreamed was possible, right? So I love that. I absolutely love that. So do you actually teach that the
Yes.
animal iridology?
I do. I have got a diploma course that teaches people. So people can either choose to do it for their own results, in which case they don't have to do all the case studies and everything. So that's sort of cheaper and less involved. Or if they want to do it professionally. But I do only take on sort of a few students each year because it's a very much a holistic course. So it teaches you the iridology, but it also teaches you a lot of herbal essential oils, acupuncture points, lifestyle things. So it's very much because the iridology will tell you the what needs rebalancing, but then you've got to take action about doing it. So I also work with something called zoopharmacognosis, which is animals self-medicating. So rather than us saying you need this amount of milk thistle or you need this amount of that, as you two both know, there's so many natural remedies that can help the liver, that can help the kidneys, that can help repair, that can help immune function. There's never one size fits all. And when you start introducing choice back into the animals' lives and help them feel empowered in their own healing journey, the results you get are like this. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And again, how relevant to what we've all been through, because over the last 2 years, a lot of us, you know, myself in my life, I've never really had choice taken away from me. I've been very lucky. I've grown up in England. I've been able to travel where I want. I've been able to study what I want, been able to go. So I've been very fortunate to be born at a time and in a place where I've had so many opportunities open to me. Now, I know that's not the same for everyone in the world, but you think about our animals have that are under human control have all their choices taken away from them. We choose when they're taken away from their mothers. We choose where they live. We choose who they live with. They choose what they eat, what medication, what injections, what chemicals are put on them. You know, it's just every single choice is taken away. And we've all had a bit of our own medicine now of seeing, you know, how many conversations have we all had saying, hang on a minute, I don't want someone else making a choice about this, but how many of us repeatedly take our animals and shove chemical wormers, chemical spot-on treatments onto their necks, if you talk about a dog or a cat, that the instructions say, do not touch, do not let them on it. If you see, and you're thinking, I'm putting that into there and it's seeping into their bloodstream, and yet I'm not allowed to touch it. So I think for me, even though there's a lot of horrific things that have been opened up, for me, I've never been so grateful for this exposure, because it's helping people realize the impact of what they're inadvertently often doing, the choices they're making for their animals, and questioning those choices now.
I love what you said there, because it's so true. That's exactly what I've been saying as well, is that, you know, what's happening with us, and we are up in arms, make no mistake, we are up in arms. I'm one of those saying, F you ain't coming near me with nothing in my body. I am a pure blood. I was born that way and I shall remain that way. And I must say, I'm one of these people that very seldom had my animal vaccinated for anything. Okay, really, I've never believed in it. I grew up on the farm. Our animals were not, I mean, okay, if they had to be neutered or whatever, that was a different story, you know, but really there was not this kind of nonsense going on there. They ran around, they did their thing. For me, it was very unnatural, and in fact, not too long ago, I had a connection with one of my cats. And, you know, she actually asked me what was going on in the world. Why was she feeling so much chaos? And I said, you know, and I kind of like gave her the gist. And she said, now you know what us animals felt like.
Exactly.
Like. I went, wow, I never thought about it like that. But interesting, you mentioned that spot on stuff. And I want to just say to you, I want to warn people against that stuff. Exactly. I've got my one cat, Madiba, he's nearly 17. Okay. And about a year ago, I was doing my motherly duty and I gave them all their spot on. Well, within 24 hours, he suddenly developed the craziest habits. He was running outside. Suddenly, he you know, when I was feeding them, of course, they would come into the kitchen. He was then running on the other side of the house, couldn't get in the window. And I mean, the window's like 2 meters up. He never got in there anyway to begin with, but it suddenly developed I knew something was not right. And I felt immediately it was this stuff. And then I spoke to 2 of my other friends who just happened to mention that their elderly cats these were the elderly cats. So I think it really shows up in the elderly cats.
All the very young. The very young as well.
Very young as well, yeah. That their cats as well suddenly, and they like had kidney issues, etc., etc. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's this stuff. I then gave him bentonite clay. I gave him diatomaceous earth. I have stopped all of that stuff at all. Now, if I want to get rid of fleas and stuff, it's diatomaceous earth that I rub on them, and I will mix it with water to get rid of worms and stuff like that. That for me is a more natural way of doing it. But I want to just really warn people against that. And it's so important to check with your animal before, honestly, it's just, are you okay? with us doing this, please know that you're going to go to the vet now, because I'm not sure about what's going on inside of you. But if you're an animal communicator, and if you open your heart to receiving the voices of the animals, you will know what is going on, and you will generally know how to deal with that anyway. And I think what you've said there is so, so true. And do you know that they're actually jabbing animals against the spiky flu in zoos?
Oh, it's disgusting. And the thing is, again, I think it's really important for anyone watch this. Now, I've had animals all my life, and I will put my hand up. I've made some awful mistakes in my time, because I've done things, you know, when I first got my first dogs and cats and even horses, I did give them this, and I did use chemical fleas and things, because I thought I was being responsible. Now, how many parents of human children go through this? Because you think you're doing the right thing because you trust, but all I'm asking people to do is to observe and start learning how to ask permission. And as you say, when you know better, you do better. So the diets we feed our dogs and cats now, their life expectancy is about half of what it was. There is no such thing as a good commercial diet. There is no such thing as a healthy kibble, which is what we call the biscuits that a lot of people give their cats and dogs for diet. That doesn't exist. And, you know, and people say, well, how do I know? There's so much conflicting information. Well, again, what we've all been through, anyone who's watching your channel or my channel, the only people that are going to see this are the people that have learned how to question and keep questioning. And the question is, does that look like food? And you don't need to then go any further than that, yes or no. So again, I now teach people, at the moment, we've got a dog and cat home prepared nutrition course, and we're doing a horse one as well, and how to work safely with herbs and essential oils, because you can do harm with natural remedies. You absolutely can do harm. There is so much thing as too much of a good thing. So with cats, I work with essential oils all the time. Now I'm really into my pine needle one at the moment. You've all just seen Coco, one of my cats, chose to come up to me, and this was open right by my lap, but she can choose whether she comes up or not. I won't force any essential oils on her. So it's all about learning to look through the animal's eyes and asking, and where things, you know, does this make sense to me? You know, I don't care whether my scientific friend or the vet or the label on the bag says it's formulated by vets. Does this look like food? Is this something a cat or a dog or a horse is actually going to eat in nature? If not, just trust it. You don't need to justify it, and go back and do better. Because if you're a parent of a pet of any sort, and I hate the word pet, but an animal, if you're a parent of an animal and anything, then it's your responsibility to do the research and learn as much as you can. And that makes no difference whether it's a two-legged, four-legged, scaled or winged. Just keep learning. And when you find you've got something wrong, don't beat yourself up about it, because none of our animals, I've never had an animal that's blamed a human. If they've done something wrong for 15 years of their life, and the human suddenly realizes and say changes their diet or stops doing this to them, the animal just said, thank you, brilliant, and is happy to move on. It doesn't sit there and start saying, well, I want counselling. You've done this to me for 15 years. You know, that's so, and also on a positive thing, Mornay and Chantelle, that, you know, we all talk in the spiritual world about being in the present moment, about using our intuition, and nothing helps us get there quicker than an animal, does it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to find out, and obviously there is a big question mark in my mind, is naturally, as you're saying, the food that we feeding our animals. Like, we run off to the vet, I mean, buy the most expensive bag of food that we can afford and what have you, and give them the little treaties and what have you. And for the normal average person who loves their kitties and their dogs and what have you, what would you recommend we start replacing the packet foods? Because God forbid, I mean, I cannot imagine. I mean, I like fresh, I like organic. So again, as a human, I like my fresh fruit, my fresh veggies. I like to cook it myself. I like to spice it myself. I love to cook my own food. Okay. So what would you say if we have, let's say, 2 cats, 2 dogs at home, the average family, let's say? How would you say we start changing, and what should we start changing? Because there's things like chicken livers. I know my cats, they love chicken livers, for example. There's, you can go to the butchery and you can buy pet mince, which to me looks just disgusting.
Yeah.
But
So I think it's using exactly as you're saying. So the first thing to do is to not worry and to do some work on yourself and not think it's complicated. So let's take an easy example of a cat and a dog. So the first thing to do is do a bit of research. Now I have got little really simple, well-priced courses on this because it's so important, because if you don't feed your animals correctly, then you are causing them not only physical stress, but emotional stress, because they know their bodies are out of balance. And then they're giving off pheromones, which are telling everyone around them that they're vulnerable because they're not healthy, they're not vibrant. So let's take a cat first. So first of all, try and just calm your mind and think, this isn't complicated. This is really easy. What would a cat eat in the wild? So they'd eat mice, they'd eat small birds. They wouldn't go and catch a cow unless it's a lion, you know. So if you've got a domestic cat, what would they eat in the wild? Most cats wouldn't eat much fish because cats don't like water and they wouldn't go fishing. So they might eat the occasional fish that they've scooped out of a pond, but it wouldn't be a regular part of their diet. So you take it right back to common sense basics in terms of what would they eat, and then what can I go and get to mimic that? So if you take, say, a cat, let's take something easy, that a lot of cats in the wild would eat a rabbit, or the equivalent of what people have in different areas of the world of a rabbit-sized small herbivore. Now, if you take that rabbit, a small part of that rabbit will be made up of its liver. And you don't need to be a biologist to know this, but 90% of the rabbit's body is not its liver. So just guess and just think, well, it's probably about 10%. So therefore, you're feeding partly meat, flesh meat, and a little bit, 10% of liver or heart, or both, because they both got different minerals. So you're trying to mimic. So if you just give them breast meat off a chicken or off a rabbit, that's not going to be balanced, because in the wild, the first thing they go for is the offal, the heart and the liver. So the higher up of the hierarchy would go for the offal first. Now, as I said, there's lots of courses. I've got ones. Dr. Peter Tobias does a really good one. There's lots of people that do really good ones. But what I want people to realize is it's not complicated. And just like those of us that have got two-legged children as well as four-legged children, the more you can mimic and keep it in its unprocessed form, the better. So there's always a but. So for example, Indy and Lola lying in the background here in Coco, they've all come from what we humans label as rescue. Now, the people who run the rescue place in Romania are doing the most amazing job ever. So if you've got to feed the cheapest kibble to keep those dogs alive whilst they find their forever homes, fantastic, do it. But I'm talking about, I have a choice about, because I've now chosen to bring them into my office. So it's my responsibility as their new mum to try and give them what they need. The other thing is, folks, is variety. So it doesn't matter how healthy a meal is, no animal of any species would eat the same meal every day. So if you're a dog or a cat, you'd hunt different animals. Sometimes you'd have a bunny, sometimes you'd have mice, sometimes you'd have a bird. They will eat insects as well. Insects is quite controversial, but dogs and cats eat a lot of insects in the wild as well, different sizes and different types. So what you're looking to do is introduce variety, and then the vegetable matter. Dogs can tolerate more vegetables and would eat more vegetables than cats. So cats need a very small amount, because if you imagine a normal prey for a cat, like a mouse or a rabbit, like most cats wouldn't eat the whole of the stomach of the rabbits, but they might of the mice. So they'd be having a small amount of pre-digested vegetable matters. And a lot of people will see their cats go off and select various different grasses. So I would say just start. Any little step in the right direction is better. So if you've got a butcher, go along to your butcher and buy real meat. And then pick one of the good courses that are available that are very, very easy, and just educate yourself and take little steps in the right direction. Because just like us humans, my diet's not perfect, but I go for the 80-20 rule. If you've got a healthy animal, you're aiming for 80% of their diet to be really healthy. And then if you want to give them treats and tidbits, that's fine. If you've got an animal that's already unhealthy, which most of them, by the time they come to me, they are, then you've got to do like you would do for yourself. You've got to be really strict and get those toxins out of the body. And I work with a lot of natural products as well to help detox the body, because we all know our food, our water, our air is all polluted. So we do unfortunately need some extra help. So it's knowing which supplements you can safely use with your pets to get those out. So all my rescue animals, before they come to me, they've had to have vaccinations, they've had flea, tick treatments, you name it. They've been pumped full of chemicals. And I'm not criticizing the rescue organizations for doing that, because they had to in those situations. But now I've got to pull those toxins out of their body if they're going to thrive.
Wow. That's amazing. I would love for us to maybe post your link that you're speaking about, the courses that you're doing around this. So,
and we'll do I'll give your listeners also 10% off everything. I'll set it up afterwards. So if we do the code solutions, and then I'll send you the link and the coupon code, and that solutions code after the name of your new channel will get them 10% off anything they want to. And as I said, there's other really good people out there as well. But take the time.
I would absolutely love us to start somewhere.
Yeah.
As I said, changing their diet. What do you think about, for example, cooking things like rice? I was thinking about that, because I'm thinking of more, you know, and vegetables. A lot of people do, let's say, mince with veggies for their dogs and their cats. Would you suggest that
right?
We put
so dogs and
veggies?
cats, it is quite complicated because it is different for dogs and cats. But dogs can have up to about, and we're just being approximate, so we're not saying again that every meal has to be perfectly balanced. So if you take what we all eat, we don't sit there and perfectly balance every meal, but you hope over the course of the month you've got a good variety of good quality food going into you. And that's the way all of our bodies are designed to work. So for dogs can have up to 20% vegetable matter, but they cannot process processed carbs in the same way as humans do. They do not possess, for example, amylase in their saliva. And amylase is one of the digestive enzymes that breaks down carbohydrates. And humans have it in their saliva and dogs and cats do not. So again, there's a big difference between wanting our animals to thrive and survive. We all know humans could possibly live to 70 years old eating rice, but they're not going to be healthy. So people say, well, my dog's fine on rice, they're beans and pulses. No, then they might survive on them, but you're building up problems and the damage is there and it will come out, which is why we've got so many IBS, pancreatitis, skin issues. Cats can process very little. But again, there's always a but. So it's much better if you cannot afford much meat, you're going to be much better off home preparing meat you've bought and some sweet potatoes and rice, whatever vegetables you can get. Even if it's not perfect, it's going to be better than anything you're buying in a bag or a can. So the main message for me for people is concentrate on what you can do and what you can't. I'm very lucky. I can afford to buy quite a lot of organic stuff for my animals because my priorities, my whole family, I'm so lucky we've all got the same things, that all our money goes on our food and nutrition for our two-legged and four-legged. And that's, we don't have holidays. Holidays are least down the pecking order because we'd rather provide ourselves with good quality food and water. And then if we've got enough left for a holiday, we might have one. But what I'm saying is everyone's situation is different. So what these courses will give you, and as I said, there's not just mine, there's loads of other really good ones out there, but you've got to go to someone that knows what they're doing and you're concentrating on the bits that you can do. So for example, for my dogs and cats, I forage nettles, cleavers, dandelions when they're growing, because I'm lucky, I live in the countryside, so they're not sprayed by pesticides. But cats need like 2% of their diet to be vegetable matter. And most purchase, whether it's in a tin or a bag, can be up to 50% carbohydrates. And it is absolutely disastrous. It's one of the reasons with the vaccinations why it's always kidney failure. I've just lost one of my cats to kidney failure. She was only about 16, 17, but she was a rescue and she'd been fed kibble all her life before I got her. And unfortunately, a lot of the damage, being vaccinated every year thing. So, you know, even cats are very difficult to change their diets compared to dogs. Dogs are easier to transition because they're more scavengers. Cats, again, have a very different digestive system, and they can only eat really fresh food. So you need to give them little and often. But even if you've got an adult cat that's been fed a processed diet, the course tells you how to slowly transition and be patient. You know, if you've got a child that's only eating chicken nuggets and chips, if you start introducing them, it's going to take a while, because your microbiome in your mouth sends messages to the brain, which makes you crave the wrong food. I know it. If I've been really busy and I've got into bad habits and I've eaten bad foods and things, I then start craving more bad foods, because the first thing that changes is your microbiome in the mouth. And then that sends messages up. I say it's like little bad gremlins saying, eat crisps, eat crisps, eat crisps. And the same as with our animals, that all these additives in there that make them crave the wrong food. But if you slowly introduce it and gradually, there is not an animal you won't transition. You've just got to be patient and think every little morsel of fresh food. Like, some people need to cook the food first, because some animals won't go straight onto raw. And again, it covers how to safely feed raw. But in the wild, the cats and dogs don't sit there and cook their meat. When you cook the meat, it completely changes the chemical constitution. So again, if like some of my cats will only eat cooked chicken, they won't eat raw. So that's still a lot better than anything processed.
That was actually going to be my next question, is it good? But I think you've just answered that. Is it better to feed them raw or cooked chicken?
You're I would then raw.
Yeah.
But if it takes you a while to transition, don't beat yourself up. And unfortunately, any raw chicken that we buy from a shop, even a butcher, will have contamination. So you then really ideally want to freeze it for 3 days and then defrost it and feed it, which will kill all the bad bacteria. Or you can get a pot of boiling water, boil the water and just drop it in there in as big a pieces as possible, just for 3 minutes, which kills the external bacteria, because the bacteria are not in the inside of the meat, they're just on the surface because of the processing. So that teaches you all how to do that safely, so you don't need to worry.
You see, that goes back to, I also do it with my cats. They love chicken breast, but I have a thing about just like putting on the pan so the outside becomes white. And I didn't know why, but now I understand why. And that goes back to following your intuition when you work with your animals, like asking them. It's like, I know what they prefer. And so that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that. Now it makes a lot more sense. And because it's contaminated. When it's contaminated
by the human processing. If they went out and caught a wild chicken, they wouldn't have that problem. But unfortunately, the way the meat is processed means it builds a lot of bacteria. So all you're doing is just sealing that. So it's so much, every single person that I've talked through that, they've been told it's too complicated, because we think we've got to be perfect. But every single home prepared meal, I mean, I've no idea how many calories in food. If I'm getting too fat, I do more exercise. If I'm getting too thin, I can eat a bit more. And it's the same with our animals. Yes, if you're new to keeping an animal, you will start off with a guidance. But we all know some humans can eat a lot more than others. But equally, my dogs here, Lola and Indy, they need 2 hours exercise. I mean, we've got a huge garden that they can run around anyway. I'm so blessed. But equally, half-hour walk around the block is not going to keep them physically or mentally. They're the type of dogs that need 2 hours exercise. So if you've got a dog, I mean, I had a client that, and I'm not saying this to be bitchy, I'm saying it to use common sense. They live in California and they have just bought themselves from a breeder a Siberian Husky. Now, the clues in the name, Siberian Huskies, are designed to live in Siberia, not California in the middle of a city. So they're on a hide into nothing. So already now, if you take an animal out of nature, it's my belief systems that your duty is then to give your animal opportunity as much as possible to get back into nature.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That is really, really, really amazing information. And I think definitely something that all of us animal parents, pet parents, no, and also I hate that word pets, my pets. It's just so wrong. I
Very
don't know why.
Very
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, very
yeah.
family, yeah.
Very family, absolutely, yeah. And I think that is such valuable information. My cats like the chicken livers, but usually I cook it, I must say. I've not considered just doing that. And also now with the chicken as well, I would usually cook the chicken. And I thought either cook or raw, but I like the idea of just charring it type thing, and just dropping it into the boiling water, which is very, very good. And I think that's amazing. If we can just go back to that, instead of buying the packets of food, and whether it's these very expensive people making these very expensive foods and what have you, and just do a little bit of a gravy or a sauce or whatever, if they like it, whatever, you know.
Yeah, be very careful with any bought gravy. I mean, the sauces will tell you everything, but you have got to be careful with things like that, because they can, salt for cats can kill them very quickly if it's the wrong salt. But just be gentle with yourself, Chantelle. Just be gentle with yourselves, because every little step in the right direction, and don't think you've got to be perfect. Even if you just introduce a little bit of cooked chicken initially and get them used to that, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. But I think the biggest problem is, as humans, we carry a lot of guilt with us.
Yeah.
And our animals don't want us to carry that at all. They're eternally grateful for any little step. So I've not had one person who's done that. And as I said, mine isn't. I love Dr. Peter DeBars, who's a Canadian holistic vet, has got a really good dog one as well. There's other ones out there, but I'm a little bit more cautious with that, but he's a wonderful resource. And it's just being little steps, and just like looking at it and thinking, shit, how would I feel if I was fed that every day? Would I eat that? You know, there's not a lot of difference between a human and a dog's digestive system. They're designed to eat more meat than us. But anyway, by the by, it works pretty similar. Theirs is just shorter than ours. Why would I eat that myself? Would I give that to my children?
No, absolutely. It's just easier, isn't it? Again, it's like us humans as well have gone into this whole fast food thing, popping into Woolies and just buying a packet of whatever that you can just stick into, which I've never enjoyed. But it's just, you know, so if we do it for ourselves, we don't even usually give it a second thought to do it with animals, right?
Exactly.
So it's such a, and again, it just brings home to me the responsibility that we have as animal parents. And I so agree, it's not to feel guilty or feel bad, because the things you're talking about, I'm thinking, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I just think of,
I've been there, I've done it.
Yeah.
Every day I learn something different. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So just I love some of the tips. I'm definitely going to try it. I mean, my girl's lying there, she has taken over the fruit bowl, is lying in the fruit bowl, that's to sleep. So maybe she's telling me something about that as well. But I love that. And I would love, Catherine, please, if you can give us the details on your course, post the link down there, and whatever else we can post with regard to today. People can get in touch and take the next step. So let's all do this, you know. I mean, I think it's just so wonderful to be able to start this whole new trend of just really taking care of our animals the way we take care of our children, in the best possible, most natural, healthy way that there is. So
and from a selfish point of view, it brings us so much joy. I cannot tell you the satisfaction it gives us humans as well. We're like, oh, this is it, because the animals are so grateful, and it makes us think about the decisions we're making for sales. So I'll send all the links, and I just want people to have fun with it and just think, okay, I'm just going to try something different this week. But don't be put off too easily, particularly if you've got cats. Don't think if they say no once, it's a no, it's this addiction. You know, go back to the fact, if you've eaten processed food a lot, you're going to take a little while for your microbiome and your senses and your taste to change. So don't be afraid to persevere.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. I just wanted to add something. Yeah, this whole conversation is so in my world. We were all talking the same language, but humans and kids are so the same. And this is what I want to take out of this talk today, that we are the same. Animals and kids are the same. We've got habits. We get out of habits or we stay in habits. And the whole thing about asking the animal, looking in their eyes and asking what they need. Each animal, not even a species, each animal is an individual. Yeah. We all know that. We as animal lovers, we know I've got 5 cats. Each one are their own personality, their own likes, dislikes, stuff like that. So by asking them what they want, what they need, that is so important. And if we can do that with our children even, then we will have happier families, because what we're doing with our animals, we're doing with our children. With ourselves, so to say. So I just want to end up with one thing. Ask your pet what is their name. Don't give them a silly name like Fluffy. Please stop doing that. Or Lucifer, what is the other word, devil name as well? Stop giving your pets like silly names. Yeah, Diablo. Stop doing that. Ask your pet for a name. Give them awesome names.
They'll always tell you exactly. You know, it's like you'll often hear about pregnant moms, and they'll say the child chooses their name, and you know they actually do the same thing. The cat knows their name, or the animal will often know their name, and when you tuned in, it will tell you what it wants to be called or what it is called, or that sort of thing. So
all my animals have changed their name apart from one.
Yes.
Everyone who watched my channel knows I talk all the time about Idris. But Idris is the only animal that wanted to keep his name, and he loves it. But all my other animals have chosen their names.
Yeah,
he probably did choose his name. It's just he wanted to keep the one that he chose in his previous home.
In my house, they get their name when they're born, or the one that they gave. And then usually when they're a year or just over a year, they get their second name, their adult name. So all my cats and dogs have 2 names, the one they're born with and the one they develop in. So yeah, I'm also lucky with my name. My mom thought I was going to be a girl, everything. So they had a different name for me. So when I was born, this name just popped into my mom's head. So I believe firmly that was me just telling her, this is my name. I don't want all my forefathers' names. I just want this name. So I was lucky with that, because when you give your child a name, your forefather, your grandfather, and this father, all those names, you're actually putting on karma. You're putting on on a vibration and energy onto that being. So choose wisely. Give your pet good, strong names, not fluffy, and not McDonald's or something stupid.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Oh, thank you so much. That was such fun.
And it was such valuable, beautiful, amazing information. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. And we look forward, Catherine, to having you back in 2 weeks' time again.
Lovely.
And yeah, thank you so much. Take good care. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you. So guys and girls, yay, we've just had our first guest on Solutions. So happy to have had Catherine here. Just wow, this incredible information. So please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe if you haven't already. We will definitely be sharing far and wide. And our next guest on Solutions will be Bryce. Actually, I do believe it'll be on Wednesday, when we are going to be talking morning rituals. When we say rituals, please, I've got to be so careful about using the R word. But basically what we're doing, you know, good practices, yogic cleansing practices, and just starting our day with some amazing, beautiful, positive vibrations. So look forward to that as well. Really excited to have this channel started. It's so cool. So God bless you all. Thanks so much. Take good care of yourselves. Thank you.